Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Monday. We managed to bypass April Fool's Day. It's April 2nd. Beautiful sunny day in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Whew. Okay, well, just you and me and the news, which, you know, as usual, is pretty uniformly depressing, so who the hell wants to talk about it? I want to start off nice and slow, easy going. And for that, I'm going to rip off Brian O'Neill's column from yesterday. He wrote a column about the soap opera aspect of the Highmark Melani incident. The word sordid keeps being used. It was even used by his own attorney in the paper today, something where he said, these sordid details of his personal life. As you no doubt know, Melani has been relieved of his duties. He has been fired by the board of Highmark. On Friday night, when I was doing the public television show called 4802, which is, I don't even know what's on after it, but I'm assuming the Washington Week in Review comes on after it. So it's sort of the local yokel version of that, heading into, at 8 o'clock, Washington Week. And sitting in for Valerie McDonald, who is usually on representing the more liberal side of the spectrum with me, was Jonna Pro. And Jonna was just beside herself with delight at this Melani soap opera. She couldn't wait to talk about it. She was saying that this is the greatest story. I mean, for a talk show host, this is heaven. She was wallowing in it. But she pointed out something that I had noted but hadn't, because I am not the kind of reporter who's given to reading the police blotter. Jonna was a reporter for the Post-Gazette who read many a police blotter in her day. So she knows what police reports of incidents read like. And she could not stop raving about the police report written by the Oakmont police officer, David Brankley. He's the guy who wrote the report, who was, I guess, first on the scene when Melani was involved in a fisticuffs with his mistress's husband. And Jonna could not stop raving about this. She said, read it. She says, it's like a great novel. It's like, usually these things are so dry. And perpetrator said, blah, this, that, blah. It's just nothing. It's just bare bones information, and usually not enough. This guy's right. This guy, she said, it's so wonderful. You can find it on the internet. Said the greatest police report ever written. Well, apparently this is all the folks at the PG are talking about. I think they want to hire this guy as a writer, because Brian O'Neill says the same thing. He quotes one of the lines from the police report. Here's the police report. He asked me in an emotional voice if I had ever had a relationship that was everything to me.
Oh, my God.
And O'Neill says, that's not Jacqueline Suzanne, that's not Jackie Collins or Judith Krantz. That's Oakmont officer David Brankley reporting what Highmark CEO Kenneth Melani told him. And then he goes on to tell Officer Brankley, hey, officer, seriously, try to get that line copyrighted. It's gold. I'm telling you, it's gold. He asked me in an emotional voice if I ever had a relationship that was everything to me. And he doesn't have the next line down here, but as I recall it, then Officer Brankley wrote in a very policeman-like manner, I decline to respond. So you have this steamy, wonderful, novelistic police report by Officer Brankley from the Oakmont Police. And apparently what Brian is saying is this, of course, has given rise to countless jokes that are all over the social media universe. He shared a few. Here's the one I love the best. I mean, this one's just brilliant. Here it is. I hear the husband figured it out when she came home with blue hand marks all over her. You get it? Do you get it? Here's another one. Don't call it an affair. Call it going out of network. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, the joy we take in others' tragedy. Oh, the joy we take in others' misery and horror. The joy we take when the mighty fall. I vacillate between enjoying the spectacle and then having empathetic moments for the people, the real, honest human beings that are caught up in this, however much they have acted poorly or badly. The fact is, ain't any of us saints, right? And I cannot imagine my foibles or moments of bad judgment being paraded around in a public manner like happens to this man, happened to Bill Clinton. I mean, most people are able to maybe stray and do something awful, and the whole world doesn't find out about it, right? That's you and me. So for us to get such pleasure from somebody else's pain does not seem quite right, but then we're only human. Again, starting slowly. The Quaker Oats guy. Can you picture him in your head? You dang well better, because that is one of the oldest brand name logos that so in 1890, if I said to somebody, can you picture the Quaker Oats guy? They could. In 1890. He's been around for 134 years. And he hasn't really been changed. He looks like an old Quaker, right? He's got the funny hat on, the white hair, the little white thing at his, what do you call that? Like an ascot-y thing in lieu of a tie. But he has had a makeover. Now, I remember when they made over Betty Crocker. Betty got a little thinner. She had a new hairdo. With the Quaker Oats guy, the people who own him, which happen to be, of course, what big, is it Pepsi? Yeah, PepsiCo owns Quaker Oats now. Okay, so they wanted him modernized a little bit, but not so that you would necessarily notice. So it occurs to me, well, if we wouldn't notice, then why bother? Are we that susceptible to subtle changes, like a slight haircut, showing more of his shoulders? Because that's the change. You used to see him only from just sort of a neck up. Now you see broad shoulders, and it takes the picture down a little bit further. Now there's a different red background. He has lost about 5 pounds. if you look at the two, you can't see a damn change at all. I'm wondering how much some advertising agency got. How many people worked tirelessly on this? How many meetings with hair pulling and fights broke out over how to do this? By the way, the Quaker Oats guy in the business has a name. They don't call him the Quaker Oats guy. You know what they call him? Larry. Larry. So here they show what the differences are, but I can't even see him. Showing his shoulders makes him seem stronger and more vibrant. Trimming his hair makes his neck look longer and him lighter. I can't even see that his hair is trimmed. I don't even notice the shoulders. What else? Oh, we placed a red color behind him because it adds a sense of movement. I don't know about that. And they put, it says here, subtlety was the primary aim. The goal is not to have anyone notice. Well, then, why do it? How many hundreds of thousands, yea, even $1 million went into this when you can't see a difference? Although I'm willing to bet that they have studies that show, because these guys now are essentially, advertising agencies are not far removed from military psyops, psychological operations. And they've got data. They know how people make choices. They know what people notice or don't notice. They know if people notice things unconsciously but are not consciously noticing them. So they've somehow probably tested this, and the new Quaker Oats guy, the new Larry, somehow is more likable to an average person than the old Quaker Oats guy. But I got to tell you, I defy you to see the difference. I don't get it. I once worked at an ad agency I worked in an ad agency in the 60s. It just occurred to me. A big one. Foot, Cone, and Belding. It was a big ad agency in a number of cities. And some of its big clients were Johnson Wax. I know that because I was in that area, the Johnson Wax area, and that's Johnson Wax and Johnson and Raid, and the guy. This was when they were doing those great commercials with animation, where the bugs are up to something, and then they say Raid, and Raid comes in and kills them dead. The guy, the animator who did that, was a very nice man. But that would have been about 1969, and it was an ad agency. So there I was with Mad Men, and I got to tell you, I was there for all of 3 months. That was it. It was a sort of a summary job to make money so I could go off to New York to become an actress, which is where I went in September, to New York. And it was there was a lot of stuff going on there in 69. Let me tell you. It just occurred to me, though. Why is wow. There was no one as good looking as Don Draper that I saw wandering around. But there were beautiful women. That is for sure. Okay. Well, now I'm stuck, because now I got to get into the heavy stuff. And I've got some, I have not been able to get out of my mind something else that happened on Friday night on that show. Because I found myself, I said something on the show that I don't know that I'd said on this show, but I absolutely meant it, and I absolutely believe it. And yet it was greeted with, like, that I had overstated the case. And I have, for some reason, I keep replaying in my head what I said and thinking, I really don't think when you have an outrageous event like the cold-blooded shooting of Trayvon Martin, it would seem that when you react to it, to be told you're somehow over the top because you're stating what I think is fact. Here's what I said. I think that the stand your ground law in Florida is essentially a feel free to kill black males law. And I was told that was over, somebody said, aren't you overstating the case? And then everybody laughs at Lynn overstating the case, as if I traffic in overstatement or exaggeration. I mean it. If you have a law that says if you feel threatened, you can shoot somebody, even if you are in your car and the other person is walking on a sidewalk. Obviously, if you feel threatened, you can drive away. But no. This law apparently allows you driving in your car fully armed to feel threatened because you see a black male where you think a black male isn't supposed to be, and because all black males look suspicious to you. All black males look threatening to you. You're going to get out of the car and you're going to shoot him. And then you're going to claim self-defense because you, according to the Florida law, felt threatened. And you will not be taken into custody because the law allows the shooter to say, I feel threatened. We know that millions of Americans feel threatened by black males. They're scared. So does that mean, and I guess it does because this is what happened to Trayvon Martin. He was minding his own business, walking home, and he's a dead kid now because this goofball who the state of Florida allowed to be armed, despite the fact that he had a criminal record. He had a criminal record. The state of Florida, that with its fine stand your ground law, actually does not tell people who feel threatened in a situation to retreat. It lets them stand their ground and shoot. My disbelief that such a law could be passed it's boundless. This abdication of authority to armed vigilantes, self-appointed vigilantes. Unbelievable. To call that law a feel free to shoot black men law is not an overstatement. And you know what? I don't think it would work if we reverse the races. If you had a dead white kid on the sidewalk and a black guy saying, I felt threatened, you think that black guy would not have been arrested? I ask you, do you think? I have some statistics to share with you when we get back. I'm going to take a break. But since these laws, like Florida's, have been passed, some people have started compiling some stats. There's nowhere near enough to draw conclusions for the academic types, but there sure are some red flags coming up, not to surprise anyone with a brain in their head and a clear-eyed view of America's racial problem. So let me share that with you after this.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Tigers Be Still, The Moody Blues, La Nueva Madonna, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay, I also... Oh, well, I'll get into that. This was a story in the Wall Street Journal, and the headline is, "More Killings Are Called Self-Defense." That is one of the things that is quite clearly up. The number of shooters and people who have killed people claiming they did it in self-defense has gone way up, and the reason being the laws have changed, and they know they can have that as a immediate fallback defense. I did it in self-defense. I felt threatened. So, let me give you some of this information. It's interesting. At a time when and we've talked about this, when the overall rate of homicide and of violence in America is declining, the fact is more civilians, we're getting the authorities out, the people with badges out of the picture here, more civilians are killing each other and claiming self-defense. So while the general murder rate is going down, the one arrow going up is exactly this kind of thing, with armed regular folks shooting each other and saying, "I did it because I was standing my ground." Half of the states now have much more liberal readings. I use the word strangely. Liberal readings of what constitutes self-defense now. And the reality is that these laws pushed by Republican legislatures give people a lot more leeway to shoot somebody and to claim that they were doing it because they had no choice. They were doing it to defend themselves. Some more numbers here. In about 60% of justifiable homicide cases, that would be, self-defense would definitely be part of justifiable homicide. In about 60% of those cases, the relationship between the victim and the killer was known. In other words, they were not strangers. This is totally different from non-justifiable homicides, where more than 3/4 of the victims knew their killers. Now, this I found interesting. Okay, listen, follow this with me. Among all homicides, when races are different between the shooter and the killed, the guy who ends up dead, when the races are different, the victim is more often white. In all homicides, the victim, if there's a difference in race, the victim is more often white than black. By contrast, in self-defense homicides, when the races differ. The opposite is true. Excuse me, I'm trying not to sneeze. The opposite is true. In cases where the shooter claims self-defense, the victim is more often black. So there's this strange, if you take the norm in dealing in homicide stats, it's always going one way, and then you take these new I did it to defend myself laws, and you get it's always going in the other direction. So more black guys are dead in these instances. Here's the head of the Prosecuting Attorneys Association. They hate these laws. This guy says it should be a huge deal to take someone's life. But he said laws like Florida's actually give a jerk without a badge, a jerk with a gun, but without a badge, more protection than a police officer who kills someone in the line of duty. Let me tell you something. When a police officer kills someone in the line of duty, he or she has a lot more potential charges coming their way. This prosecutor says it's now a guy like Zimmerman who has more protection than a police officer. That's what these laws do. They allow for these self-appointed vigilantes to go around killing people. In the last 10 years, since these laws have started being passed, looking at the numbers from the year 2000 to the year 2010, the number of killings categorized as justifiable, in other words, I felt threatened, I was doing it in self-defense, almost doubled. These laws have an impact. These laws essentially give license to people who have itchy trigger fingers. Gives license to them. Overall, the figures show that the sharpest increase in justifiable homicides occurred after 2005, when Florida and 16 other states passed these laws. And get this, while the overall homicide rate in those states stayed relatively flat, the average number of justifiable cases per year increased by more than 50% in those 5 years. So the states that pass these laws immediately see a rise in people getting killed in a case in which the law is brought into play. I did it in self-defense. I did it because I was standing my ground. And recall that unlike the usual homicide statistics, the shooters, when the shooters are white, the victims are black. Mostly. In Texas and Georgia, they have these laws, of course. Texas and Georgia, those states saw a doubling of the number of, I just had to do it, in 5 years after the laws are passed, doubles of how many people get killed in this way. Florida tripled. Florida's particularly strong law not only eliminates the duty to retreat, so that if Zimmerman's in his car, sees a black kid, and he's scared of black kids, and so he feels threatened. How do you feel threatened? If you're in your car, you drive away. And the way these laws used to read is that's what you had to do. You feel threatened, retreat. Florida law says you don't have to. You can stand your ground In fact, this law presumes that a person who uses deadly force in his home or vehicle had a reasonable fear of harm, and it immunizes the killer from civil lawsuits. Believe it or not, that means that Trayvon's parents cannot, let's say he doesn't ever charge, they can't go after him civilly. This law prevents a civil remedy for his parents if they can't get a criminal remedy. Hello?
Hello, Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, how you doing? This is Floyd from Braddock.
Hi. How you doing, Floyd? Fine.
I'm wondering about the Trayvon case. If the guy is following him and he sees this car following him and the guy gets out the car and approaches him and he fights this guy, is he standing his ground?
Yes, he is. And Trayvon, it seems to me, if he'd had a gun, he would have been in his rights. He was the one being threatened.
Right.
He was the one being
thinking.
stalked. He was the one being followed. He was the one. So if, in fact, and the poor kid obviously fought for his life when this guy, but he didn't have a gun and Zimmerman did.
Yeah, and I mean, Zimmerman is saying that the guy was trying to kill him. And if the guy was actually fighting him, then to me, I think he's standing his ground and protecting himself from someone who's aggressive towards him.
Exactly right.
You know, and then he was murdered for standing his ground.
That's correct.
And on another note, did you by any chance hear that Rick Santorum gaffed over the weekend?
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm a little out to. I can't figure why he would. I didn't. If it hadn't been pointed out to me, I would not have heard that or caught it. Do you think it was that clear?
I think it was pretty clear. You could hear Nig. He didn't follow through, and he completely got shook, and his conversation went south. It almost looked as though it was a spliced tape.
For those
but it isn't.
Okay, for those who don't know, this is Santorum campaigning in Wisconsin. Do you recall what exactly he was saying? Because I don't even understand how Nig comes into the conversation. It's like the sentence. It was so confusing. Now
he said something to the effect of. He said Obama was protesting, and then I hate to paraphrase, and then he said, I believe, that because he's a government nig, and then he said, something totally that had nothing to do with anything he said prior to what he had said. And you could see that it seems as though he had caught himself before he said something. And I'm not saying that maybe that's what he was going to say. Maybe he was going to say negotiator.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't coming out good. Who knows what he was saying?
Right.
But, Rick doesn't need another one of these, you know.
Well, listen, Wisconsin's going to finish him off tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he's toast.
Yeah. But I don't know. He's the one who said blah.
He didn't say black. He said blah.
Blah people.
Yeah.
Blah people.
Yeah. I met one of those the other day, so.
You did? There's lots of them around. Okay. Yeah, you too. Oh, there's so many blah people around. Okay, get this. There was another case in Miami this week. Listen to this. A judge in Miami this week dismissed a murder charge against a guy called Grayston Garcia. Here's what Grayston Garcia had done. He had chased down and stabbed to death a suspected burglar who had stolen his car radio. The judge ruled that Garcia was well within his rights to pursue the victim and demand the return of his property.
Oh
Okay, a guy sees someone running away from his car with his car radio. He's been burglarized. Under this Florida law, the guy with the stolen car radio, the guy who's had his radio stolen, who, if he's a good citizen and, of course, is armed, can chase the suspected burglar down and kill him. And he's off. Citing the stand your ground law. See, to me, this isn't standing your ground. This is when when you chase somebody, especially for something as piddly as your friggin' car radio. People don't deserve. Again, he was judge, jury, executioner. This law allows people to do that. And just last week, this killer, this guy who stabbed somebody to death, was well within his rights, according to the judge, to pursue the victim and demand the return of his radio. He didn't demand the return of his radio. He killed the guy. Prosecutors say they will appeal. Good luck, prosecutors. Here's another prosecutor saying, I've had cases where a guy shot someone in the back with an automatic rifle 11 times and argued they were threatened and they proclaimed that they were standing their ground. Dallas County DA Craig Watkins said the Texas law is totally susceptible to abuse. He says, if someone is trying to kick in your door, I don't think you should have a duty to retreat. That's your house. But you can't pursue an individual and then claim self-defense. That is, it's so obvious to me. If you're backed in a corner, your back's against the wall, that's a self-defense moment. Someone's breaking the door of your house down. That's a self-defense moment. George Zimmerman getting out of his car when the police told him to stop pursuing this guy, not to get out of his car, pursuing the kid. This guy running after the guy and stabbing him to death who had his radio. Anybody who pursues the guy who ends up dead should not be able to claim self-defense. That's not even standing your ground. That is taking more ground. That is aggression. It's not defense. So anyway, the folks who watch these things are saying that the homicide rates are up in this justifiable category in every damn state that passed one of these laws. Go ahead, caller.
Clarence from Canonsburg. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
I'm fine. Just talking about the stand your ground laws and why they're passed. I was trying to figure out the psychology behind them. And it's more stand your ground, I don't know, in some type of psychological sense that you're taking, these brown people are taking over America. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, like the law says, if you're being spilled right in our back to the corner, as you recently said. I think it's more of a psychological thing where, hey, these people are taking over our country. We got to stand our ground. That's why people are pursuing them and shooting them.
Right.
So we gotta
there's one less
there's
brown
one less.
or black person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this whole race thing. Oh, just a real quick on the Santorum thing. Give the guy the benefit of the doubt. That's one of those things you hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, it's going to look bad and people are going to make it sound bad, but you don't know what he's going to say.
No, I agree. That one I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of you can't figure out the Quaker, whether you want to see in the Quaker Oats guy, that's what you're going to see. That's all that is. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. When they passed those laws, I knew what was going to happen.
Sure.
When you're born a threat, that's just how it is. But I'm waiting for And I said, now, if I'm walking down the street, minding my own business, guy in a Ford F-150 with a Confederate flag on the back of it,
Hey.
and I just turned around and shoot him.
Yeah.
Because I felt threatened.
Yeah, I don't blame
Then
you.
is that standing my ground?
That's right.
He might have just been asking for directions, you know.
That's right.
You know?
No, I absolutely agree with you. If a guy with a Confederate flag flying were to approach me and I'm a black male, I would be justifiable in shooting, shooting him right through the right between the eyes.
A business guy walking down the street, guy on a Harley with some tattoos, pulls next to him, shoots him.
Yeah.
I felt threatened. I'm sorry. You know, those guys are threatening to me.
And the thing is that there's, we have one political party which shall remain nameless, that has a modus operandi that has to do with making their base feel constantly under threat, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. And we know who threatens them. We know it's blacks. We know it's browns. We know it's gays, because gays are threatening their institution of marriage. We know it's anyone who's not Christian. We know they're threatened. They feel threatened and under attack all the time. They're the ones who tell you there's a war on Christmas. There's the one who tell you they're always in a defensive posture. They're always ready to shoot. You know, in a state like the state of mind that they constantly push. At Christmas time, it just occurred to me that some poor salesperson who says to one of these people, instead of Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, they could be shot dead.
They could be shot dead.
Yeah.
Believe me, I don't watch any TV. You know, this the psychology of human beings absolutely fascinates me.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about, this whole Christian pushback or whatever, that need to feel like they're put upon and all that. I said, they have to relate to Jesus in some way. If they're not suffering, they don't feel whole. You know what I mean? They have to find some way to feel like they're suffering or they're sacrificing themselves in some way. I think it's psychological. I have no data to back that up, but I'm working on it.
Well, okay, and I'm looking for a tweet that somebody sent that is so perfect on this case, and of course I can't find it. But it's essentially about it says you're a Republican if you believe that I can't, damn it, I'm going to find it and get it right. And what I'm going to do now is say thank you and,
you're welcome.
And take nice talking to you, Clarence.
All right.
And I'm going to take a quick break.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the ballet, opera, city theater, science center, symphony, history museum, and the Carnegie Museums. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. bergbargains.com.
Sewickley Med Spa is Pittsburgh's newest med spa, offering the latest in skincare treatments and medical-grade skincare products. Their providers have years of experience with aesthetic treatments and technologies such as Botox, Restylance, Juvederm, chemical peels, Retin-A, and spider vein treatments. They offer a discreet, personalized environment with only the best quality proven services and products. Call them today for a free consultation. 412-259-8628. The Sewickley Med Spa. 412-259-8628.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
No, I can't find it. I just found this one. Internet warning. If you get an email titled nude photo of Nancy Pelosi, do not open it. It contains a nude photo of Nancy Pelosi. That's mean. No, it's something to the effect of only these idiot Republican, religious types that are constantly squawking about their religious freedom all the time, that they're forcing their religion always on everybody else. I mean, it's such a disconnect in their worldview that it trying to talk rationally or argue with them is just impossible. Well, I can't believe it. So maybe I dreamt it. Okay. I also want to point out before I leave the gun situation that the two guns that the shooter here, Schick, used were bought legally, purchased legally in New Mexico, and the purchase went something like this. A guy who had these guns and wanted to get rid of them put a classified ad in the paper saying, hey, I got this and that and and ammo and I want to sell them for this price. And so Schick calls him up and says, I'd like to buy them. And they agree to meet in a parking lot in Albuquerque or something. And the guy never met Schick before, but he asked him what he wanted him for, and Schick said, well, I want him for target practice. And it was a private transaction. No background check, perfectly legal. So in New Mexico, you can legally sell guns in a parking lot to somebody you don't know from Adam, where you do not have the ability to do a background check yourself. So he said, he asked him, I mean, you don't have a criminal record, right? And the guy says, no. Well, yeah, of course he says no. So New Mexico, again, one of those states that the NRA owns, private parties can sell guns anywhere they choose without any background check, without any paperwork. So this was a totally legal transaction. That this is a legal transaction is mind-boggling. The Post-Gazette got in touch with the guy who sold the guns to Schick. His name is John Carnes. He is so upset, as you can imagine. He's a regular guy. He likes guns. He collects them. He this and that. Sometimes he sells them. Sometimes he buys them. Whatever. He said this guy seemed perfectly fine, normal. He says he's never going to sell a gun again. So that's one. But what? We have to wait until every private gun seller in New Mexico and all these other states ends up having one of the guns they sold used to kill an innocent person? He's just sick about it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, these... And the fact that we all know that there's no pulling these gun laws back into a realm of sanity. There's not. It's over. They won. These crazy people won. Okay. Well, I'm still looking and I can't find it. And now I'm just getting angry. So stop it. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Okay, now I want to rail about this new law that went into effect at midnight. Are you aware of it? A state law took effect 12:01 a.m. today, requires motorists to give bicyclists at least a 4-foot buffer if they pass them. Now, and if you can't get around the bike, then you're stuck behind the bike. You are allowed, because of the bike, to cross the center line to make your 4 feet. And obviously you want to do that carefully. or you'll have a head-on collision. So I just want to say this about that. I had a bike when I moved to Pittsburgh. I stopped biking when I came to Pittsburgh because this looked like a death trap to me. The streets of Pittsburgh looked like a death trap. And I had one almost fatal accident on a bike in my life. I didn't want to. That was it. I stopped riding. Now, since then, there's been bike lanes put in some places and this and that, but this is not an easy place to be a bicyclist. I want to note that. On the other hand, there are a lot of jerks on bikes. And there are a lot, especially in Oakland. I want to just say this, especially in Oakland, where they will ride their bike right smack dab in the center of the road, the car lane. They're not hugging off to the side like they're supposed to be. And cars are piling up behind them, and they're just doing their thing. Drives me nuts. The other thing that drives me nuts, I was stuck behind a bicyclist the other day, and I couldn't get around him safely. And finally, we get to a red light. I stop. He stops because there's traffic going perpendicularly, not perpendicularly, to us. And then, of course, there's an opportunity for him to make it across the intersection. The light is still red. I have to sit there obeying the law with the light. The bicyclist doesn't, and generally speaking, don't. They blow through intersections. They blow through red lights. They do not have to follow the rules of the road like the person in the car does. Maybe they do, by law, have to follow that. But generally speaking, they don't. Now, there are also people riding their bikes who do obey the laws, but I would say they're in the minority. And I don't know how we divvy up the roadway between the bicyclists, who are obviously vulnerable to these large vehicles that they're sharing the road with. But it would seem to me that the cops have to get tougher on bicyclists who don't obey traffic rules. It can't all be one-sided. Have you ever seen a cop stop a bicyclist? I never have. I never have.
I've seen them be ticketed, though.
Oh, you've seen them. Somebody has said, hey, why don't we Democrats start sharpening our knives and chase down the Republicans that stole the Florida election a few years ago? We'd all be within our rights, wouldn't we? I feel threatened by George W. Bush's presidency. So I think we're a little late. We should have done that. Anyway, I just want to say I was very annoyed by some guys on bikes this weekend. And then I wake up to find that I now have to give them 4 feet. I'll give them 4 feet and a middle finger. That's what I'll do. As I pass them, risking life and limb as I cross the yellow line. I don't know if you're aware that Keith Olbermann has lost another job. I know a lot of you are big Keith Olbermann fans. MSNBC threw him out, and he got picked up by Current TV, which is that Al Gore network. Al Gore is the money behind that, and it ain't doing very well. So Olbermann now has his show on Current TV, but not anymore. He just got fired again by Al Gore and Current TV. And let me tell you, here's the reason. Olbermann is a Class A jerk. There's not a soul in the broadcasting business who has ever worked with him who would not sign on to that statement I just made, that he is a Class a jerk. It's one of the I could not watch his show because his jerkiness, I thought, permeated that show. So even though he is smart as blazes and he's a good writer and, good performer and all that, I just couldn't handle him because I knew too much. And I could just, that guy doesn't have a friend in the world. So I don't know where he's going to pop up next, but I can't imagine. And his show has been given to another out-of-work person who gets knocked around a lot, and that would be former governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer. So Spitzer now is on at 8 o'clock on current TV, where Olbermann once was and is no more. For those of you who even followed him. I mean, he had like 1 million viewers on MSNBC. He had a little over 100,000 viewers on current TV. That shows and now he's got none. There are people who just are their own worst enemies. I mean, who self-destruct constantly. And he has a reputation as a serial self-destructor. Oh, here's a shocker. Where is it? A court has struck down another loony Republican law. They keep passing these laws and they come up into the court and the court says, what? Are you kidding? Did you even bother to read the Constitution? Jeez. A judge in Oklahoma has struck down a state law that requires women seeking abortions to have an ultrasound and to listen to a detailed description of the fetus before having an abortion. There's another one of those laws. It just went down.
Good.
But it tells you what these legislatures are all passing these same bills, the stand your ground laws, the get in every woman's vagina laws, these keep as many blacks and young people away from voting laws. They're all a piece. You can see them in every single state. And this is why you let your state, and we've let Pennsylvania go to the Republicans. They own it now. So we're getting these laws. Brought to you by the National Rifle Association and, evangelicals in the Catholic Church. Wonderful. And why my voice is so... Okay, I think that's pretty much what I got. So, I am calling it a day. I actually do have more stuff, but I don't feel like talking about it. It has to do with gas prices, and I don't want to. The Koch brothers have put another gazillion dollars into some ad commercial that you might be seeing soon with the Pennsylvania primary next up that essentially says that Barack Obama wants to raise the price of gas and that he's doing everything he can to get it to $9. First of all, common sense would tell you that for his own political future, he wouldn't want the price of gas to go up. And, of course, common sense, if you knew anything about how the price of gas works, Obama has next to nothing to do with the price of gas. That it's a global marketplace, and what's even fascinating is since under Obama, we have been drilling more. The drill baby drill people, we have been drilling more. And look where the price of gas has gone. Up. So these people who think we can drill and drill and drill and the price of gas will go down are nuts. The numbers don't show it at all. In fact, prices can increase as we drill more. It has nothing to do with it. There is no statistical correlation. I mean, people who know numbers, there is absolutely no statistical correlation between how much oil comes out of American wells and the price of gas at the pump. No correlation. But the Koch brothers are dropping millions upon millions of dollars into, as usual, misleading, misinforming, hoodwinking the hapless and relatively clueless American voter to once again see the world not as it is, but how they want you to see it. All right, that's it. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Tuesday is Tuesday. And we will be back. Enjoy your day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.